I can't think of anything good the guy did. There must be something, but I don't know what it is. No, what else are you talking about?
Hi. I'm here to discuss two topics: settler colonialism and fascist expansionism, and how to differentiate between the two. So, the first term is settler colonialism. Settler colonialism is when an outside group enters a country, a nation, or a continent, sets up shop, and takes control. Um, whereas, and the second choice is um, expansionist fascism is when a country already exists on a continent or it existed in the past and appears or reappears and begins to expand outward. So the main concept is that a, um, a expansionist fascist country will tend to make big loud claims. The regional will tend to make big loud claims the regional lands, or say that they have a reason to be there, invade the nearby areas, and they have some justification for being where they were, maybe out of history or just maybe out of lineage in some cases. But both are expand. Both no, the settler colonial state does not feature um, expansionism. Like the U.S. settler colonial, it does not actually literally expand or has stopped its expanding phase and shifted to imperialism. So I assure you, if Rhodesia, the second settler colonial country I'm going to discuss, had been permitted to exist, it would now be practicing some form of imperialism to stay connected to the global economy. However, the world economy. However, because of the sanctions, it had a really rare case of sanctions on a government that is actually doing something that is very dubious. Anyway, Rhodesia was founded in the 1800s, or not actually. Its roots were in the 1800s, but it really came to be in the 69 unilateral Declaration of Independence and Ian Smith. So that's, and before there was Rhodes in the 20s, or sometime back then. I'm not sure. But anyway, Ian Smith's government wanted to maintain control, but they were sanctioned, so they had trouble getting food and supplies to keep their government in power. However, this is a lot different because Rhodesia was not trying to expand, it was simply trying to maintain. So a big difference between a settler colonial is not only that it has no justification of being there, but kind of by having no justification for being there, they have it set in their mind that we don't want to expand. But when there is a justification, we find governments like Israel that want to expand, like Hitler, who want to expand because there is actually a tiny bit of justification that German people belong on German soil, that German soil is for Germans. And same case, and in the case of Israel, yeah, it's true that the history records show that there have been Jewish people in the region of the Levant for centuries. So there is truth, and the most dangerous thing about truth is that if a speck of truth is defended by a bodyguard of lies, it becomes very dangerous, and we need to understand that, because truth among itself is not dangerous, but when it is surrounded by lies like a pill, then it's able to make a really big impact. And then when it does so, it explodes and creates all these messes that we often see. So that's a really dangerous thing, not only about settler colonialism or expansionism, but really about truth in general, is that when you have a speck of truth and it is surrounded by lies and capitalized, when you capitalize truth into capitalism, you create these very dangerous, devious settler, colonial, or expansionist, fascist governments. So that is another thing. Anyway, that concludes this 618's discussion. There's plenty more to talk about, but that is the main thing there. Falling asleep, so I have to shut down the show here. All right, letters.